Hey, this is John. Welcome to Johnogram Tactics, where I show you tips and tricks for solving nonograms. In this tutorial, we're going to expand on centering. If you don't know what centering is, please look at the previous video that covers it. This first technique I call centering with an offset. If you can center a clue within a space, it will still occupy that center even if there is an additional number in the clue. The additional number offsets the center to one side or the other. Take this 8-1 clue on the 8th row. Start by centering the 8. We know this is valid because 8 times 2 is greater than the 15 available squares. Now we have to account for the 1. With the 1 being on the right of the 8, it pushes the 8 to the left. Start at the leftmost square of the center, expand it by 1, and an additional 1 square to account for the gap. This works because we're not really centering the 8 within 15 squares. With that 1 in the clue box, we have at least 2 squares to account for somewhere in this row. That means we really only have a space of 13 to center the 8. 13 minus 8 is 5. And notice we have 5 squares to the left of the 8 and 5 plus 2, or 7 squares, on the right. This next technique can be used to see if you can center a clue when multiple numbers are in the clue. We'll start with an easy one, this 10-2 clue. Sum all of the numbers in the clue and add 1 for each gap. In this case, we get 10 plus 2 plus at least 1 for the single gap, so that's 13. Subtract that number from the number of squares we have, which is 15. That leaves us with 2. This means we have 2 squares in this row that we cannot account for. This tells us 2 things. First, we cannot center the 2. If we have 2 unaccounted for squares, then we cannot know any part of the 2. But the 10 is different. With only 2 unaccounted for squares, we know where at least 8 of them are. To center this clue, start by counting from the left up to 10. Leave the first 2 squares blank and fill in the rest while counting up to 10. So 1, 2, those are blank, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 10 is now centered. If the clue had multiple numbers that could be centered, you would start from the left for the first number and start from the right for the last one. Note, in this particular example, we could have used the first method. So here would be centering the 10. It's being pushed to the left by this 2 that's on the right of the 10. So 1, 2, and the gap. Same thing. Let's look at this 2, 5, 4 clue instead. We clearly cannot center a 2, 5, or 4 within a space of 15. Doubling any of those numbers is less than 15. So let's add them up instead. 4 plus 5 plus 2 plus the 2 gaps means 13. This means there are only 2 unaccounted for squares in this row. So we cannot center the 2, but we can center the 5 and the 4. With the 4 on the right, we can leave the first 2 squares blank and continue with the next 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. But what about the 5? Our final technique uses the counting method to center multiple numbers. It's similar to our original counting method, but we must now account for other numbers in the clue to get all of our clue. So let's start by counting from the left. To get the 5, we need to account for this 2 in front of it. 1, 2, gap. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we'll start from the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, gap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. That centers the 5. And notice that we had 2 unaccounted for spaces. That means we've got 3 spaces of our 5 and 2 spaces of our 4. We have centered this as much as we can so far. Alright, that comes to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment to let YouTube know you'd like to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching. See you next time.